Joran lived alone near the edge of the mining zone on Moon 6. His small metal shelter stood close to the cliffs, where broken machines and rusted tools filled the ground. Every day, he worked at the scrapyard, pulling parts from old cargo ships and transport rigs. Life was quiet and simple. He liked it that way. The day began like any other. A weak sun rose over the red sky. Joran sat outside, eating a dry biscuit and drinking warm water. He looked across the canyon, thinking about what part of the scrapyard he would search today. Then it happened. A bright light flashed across the sky. It moved fast, like a falling star. But it wasn't a star. Joran knew the sound of engines. He stood up as the rumble grew louder. A fireball came down from the clouds and hit the cliffs with a loud crash. Smoke rose high into the air. Joran grabbed his goggles and ran toward the smoke. His boots hit the dry rock as dust swirled around him. The wind carried the smell of burning metal. As he got closer, he could hear something more. Small explosions and the crackle of fire. He climbed over a ridge and saw the wreck-it was a small ship shaped like a winged shell. Silver panels were broken and scattered. One side was crushed into the rocks. Flames licked the edges of the hull. A blue light blinked near the front, weak and fading. Joran had never seen a design like this before. It wasn't a mining ship or any cargo vessel from Earth. It was alien. He moved carefully, listening for signs of danger. Ships like this sometimes held fuel cores. If one exploded, there would be nothing left but ash. But Joran heard something else, a voice. It was faint, almost a whisper. He ran to the broken side of the ship and saw a figure trapped inside. A woman lay against the control board. Her skin was pale silver, almost glowing. Strange symbols ran along her arms. Her eyes were closed and she was bleeding from her forehead. Joran didn't stop to think. He pulled off his coat and climbed through the broken hull. The heat burned his hands, but he pushed forward. A beam had fallen across the seat. He braced himself and lifted it, using all his strength. The metal groaned, but shifted enough for him to pull her out. The ship gave a loud warning beep. A flashing red light lit up the walls. Fuel leak. Meltdown close, Joran carried the woman out just as the engine gave a low hum. He slid down the rocks with her in his arms. Behind them, the wreck shook once and then burst into flames. Pieces of metal flew into the air. He kept his head low until the fire settled. She was still breathing. He looked down at her face. She had high cheekbones and long silver hair. Her clothes were not like anything he had seen before. Smooth and shining with soft lights in the fabric. She looked like someone important, not a soldier or traveler. But none of that mattered now. He needed to get her to safety. Joran wrapped her in his coat and began the slow walk back to his shelter. It took nearly an hour. The canyon was rough, and the wind picked up dust. Twice he almost fell, but he never let her go. Her head rested against his chest, and now and then she gave a small breath or a weak sound back at the shelter. He laid her gently on the cot. He brought water and cleaned the cut on her forehead. Her skin was warm and soft. She moved, once whispering a word he didn't understand. He stayed close, watching her carefully. Outside, patrol drones flew past. They scanned the area for signs of the crash. Joran turned off all power in his shelter and closed the door. If the drones found out he had an alien in his home, he would be arrested, or worse. The law was clear. No contact, no rescue, no help. But Joran didn't care about the law. She would have died out there. Hours passed. She stayed asleep, breathing slowly. Joren sat nearby, checking the small scanner he used for radio signals. There were coded messages flying through the air. Someone was looking for the ship. Maybe not from Earth. That night, as stars rose in the sky, the woman opened her eyes. Joren sat up. She looked around the room with sharp, bright eyes. They were deep blue, almost glowing. She tried to speak, but her voice was weak. "You are safe," Joren said gently. "You crashed, I brought you here." She stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Her hand moved to her side, where a small device had fallen from her belt. Joren picked it up and gave it to her. She held it tightly, but did not use it. "Name," she said quietly, pointing to him, Joren. He said, "And you." She hesitated. "Leary," she whispered. It was the first time he heard her name. Short and strange, but soft, too. Joren didn't know who she really was. He didn't know that by saving her, he had just stepped into a much bigger world. He only knew she needed help, and he was not the kind of person to walk away. Leary rested on Joren's cot, her eyes slowly adjusting to the dim light inside his shelter. The walls were metal and rough, with wires and old machine parts hanging from hooks. The air was dry and smelled like oil and dust. It was nothing like her world. Yet it felt safe. Joren sat nearby, watching her with quiet eyes. He did not ask many questions. He only checked her bandage and gave her a cup of water. She took it with both hands and drank slowly. "You are healing," Joren said with a small smile. Leary nodded once. Her voice was still weak, so she did not speak much. She looked around the room again, noticing the simple life he lived. There was only one chair, one bed, and a small heater in the corner. She touched the edge of the blanket as if trying to understand it. Joren noticed she was curious but cautious. He had seen that look before in injured animals near the mines. Not fear, but alertness. She was watching everything and thinking deeply. He did not blame her. "A crash like that could shake anyone. I will not tell anyone," he said. "You are safe here." Leary looked at him and gave a small nod. Then she looked down at her hands. Her fingers traced a small symbol on her wrist. It glowed for a moment, then faded. Joren could not read it, but he understood it meant something to her. Days passed slowly. Joren went out during the mornings to gather supplies. He always locked the door behind him. Leary stayed inside, silent and still. She studied the maps on the wall and listened to the wind hit the shelter. She was a fast learner. By the third day, she understood many of Joren's words. On the fourth morning, she spoke more. "This place is far?" she said. "Yes," Joren replied. "Very far from anything important. That is why I stay here." She looked at him for a while, as if trying to decide something. Then she reached into her suit and pulled out a small cube. She pressed the center, and a faint light appeared above it. A star map. Joren leaned forward. He had never seen a map like that. The stars moved as Leary waved her hand over them. She pointed. "To a bright cluster near the edge. I come from here," she said. He looked at the place she showed. It was outside the known sectors, beyond trade routes and colony lines. "No one he knew had traveled that far? Long way to crash," Joren said. "Yes," she replied. "I ran from danger. They followed me." Joren's face became serious. "Who followed you?" She closed the map and hid the cube again. Her voice became, "Quiet hunters. From my world. They want to stop me." Joren stood up and walked to the door. He looked outside at the empty land. The sky was clear, but he knew it could change fast. If someone was hunting her, they might already be close that evening. Leary asked a question. "Why did you help me?" Joran was silent for a moment. He walked over and sat on the floor beside her. "I saw someone hurt," he said. "I could not leave you there." Leary looked at him. In her world, power decided who lived and who did not. But Joran was different. He had no ship, no soldiers, no reason to protect her. Yet he did. The next day, trouble came. Joran was walking back from the trade post. He carried a small bag with food and tools. Near the edge of the mining trail, he saw something strange in the sky. A black ship hovered without sound and dropped. No landing gear. It floated like a shadow above the canyon. Then it vanished into the clouds. Joran hurried back to the shelter. He locked the door behind him and looked at Leary. "They are here," he said. Leary stood at once. Her face was calm, but her eyes showed she understood the danger. She reached for a small device on her belt and pressed a button. A soft hum came from it, but there was no reply. "Signal is blocked," she said. "They are close." Joran moved to a panel on the wall and pulled out a hidden drawer. Inside were old tools and a short blade made from scrap metal. He handed it to her. "Not much, but better than nothing," he said. She took the blade and held it with steady hands. It was clear she had trained before. Her posture changed. She was no longer weak or tired. She stood tall like someone ready to fight. That night they did not sleep. Joran set traps around the shelter. Leary stayed near the back wall, watching the door. They spoke little, but trust had already formed between them in the early hours. A sound broke the silence, a soft knock, then a voice from outside, Shelter 3. "You are ordered to open." Joran's breath slowed. He looked at Leary and shook his head. He moved to the back and opened a panel in the floor. A narrow tunnel led to an old service path under the cliffs. "Go now," he said. "What about you?" she asked. "I will stay and delay them," he replied. Leary looked at him for a moment. Then she reached into her belt and placed a small stone in his hand. "It glowed faint blue for trust," she said. Then she slipped into the tunnel and closed the hatch. Joran stood alone in the shelter as the door began to shake. He held the glowing stone and waited. He did not know her true name. He did not know she was a princess. But he knew she had trusted him, and that was enough. The shelter door shook harder with each second. Loud bangs echoed through the metal walls. Joran stood still, holding the glowing blue stone Leary had given him. His heart beat faster, but his mind stayed calm. He had dealt with danger before, though never like this. The voice outside spoke again. "We are looking for someone who came from the sky. Allow us inside. We will search and leave." Joran stepped back from the door. He picked up a heavy wrench and waited. He would not let them in easily. Leary was already in the escape tunnel. He just needed to buy her time. The door flew open with a loud crack. 3 figures stepped inside. They wore dark suits with smooth helmets that covered their faces. Their movements were fast and sharp like trained soldiers. The tallest one pointed a small scanner at Joran. "Where is she?" the voice asked again. Joran shrugged and pointed to the broken heater in the corner. "She went that way," he said with a dry tone. The hunter scanned the room. The device in his hand beeped once, then went silent. The other 2 moved quickly, opening boxes and searching under the bed. One of them kicked over Joran's table. Another broke open a panel on the wall. Still they found nothing. "She is not here," the tall one said. Joran kept a straight face. He knew they would not give up so easily. The leader turned back to him. "You helped her. She is not your kind. She is. From a world far above yours, you will regret this." Joran did not speak. He stared into the dark visor of the hunter's helmet. Silence filled the shelter. For a long moment, neither one moved. Then the hunter stepped out without another word. The door closed behind them. Joran waited a few seconds before rushing to the floor panel. He opened it quickly. "Leary," he called down. A soft sound came back. "I am here." Leary climbed out, brushing dirt from her clothes. Her silver hair was tied back now, and her eyes looked sharper. She stood tall and calm, but there was worry on her face. "They were from House Varan," she said. "They are enemies of my family. They do not care about law or peace." Joran looked at her closely. "Your family must be important if they send people like this." Leary did not answer at once. She walked to the window and watched the sky. The black ship was floating above the hills again. It had no lights and made no sound. It looked like a shadow in the sky. "They will not stop," she said softly. "If I stay here, you are in danger too." Joran crossed his arms and leaned against the wall. "I have been in danger before. This is my home. I decide who stays." Leary turned toward him. "You do not understand," she said. "I am not only someone from far away. I am the heir to the Sorari throne. My people are ruled by houses. My house ruled for generations, until the war began." Joran raised an eyebrow. "So, you are a princess." Leary nodded slowly. "I escaped because I would be forced to choose sides in a war I do not believe in. I want peace, but many want control. They think I am a threat to their plans." Joran was quiet. He had never met a real princess before, especially not one who crashed into his world. He stepped forward. "Then we get you off this moon, before they bring more trouble." Leary looked surprised. "You would help me? Even now, even knowing what I am," Joran smiled. "I helped you before I knew you were a princess. That makes no difference to me. You are still the same person I found in the canyon. You needed help, I gave it. That is what matters." Leary stared at him for a moment, then gave a small nod. For the first time since the crash, she seemed to relax. That evening, Joran contacted Bran using an old radio line. Bran was a smuggler he had helped once long ago. They were not friends, but there was trust between them. "Need a lift." "Quiet and fast," Joran said through the static Bran's voice. Crackled back. "You in trouble again, Joran?" "Always in trouble. I will be there tomorrow night. Be ready." Joran turned off the radio and looked at Leary. "We leave tomorrow." She nodded and began, checking her gear. Though her face was calm, her hands moved fast. She was ready to fight if needed. The next day passed slowly. Joran spent the morning covering the shelter tracks. He removed tools and scattered false signs of movement in different directions. Leary rested, but stayed alert. As the sun set behind the red cliffs, the wind picked up. Dust danced across the ground. In the distance, a shape appeared in the sky. Bran's ship-it was small and rusty, but fast. It hovered just long enough for them to run toward it. Joran carried a small bag. Leary followed close behind. Then a sharp sound broke the air. The black ship was back. A beam of light shot down from its side. The ground near them exploded. Rocks flew in all directions. Leary jumped forward and pushed Joran down just in time. "Keep running!" she shouted. They reached Bran's ramp as another beam lit the ground behind them. Bran pulled them in and slammed the door shut. The ship lifted fast, twisting through the air. "Who did you bring with you, Joran?" Bran shouted from the cockpit. "I am not ready for a war." "Just fly," Joran shouted back. Leary looked out the window. The black ship followed for a while, then turned away as Bran's ship crossed into high orbit. They were safe for now. Leary sat down, breathing hard. Joran sat beside her. "You all right?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes, thanks to you again." He looked at her and smiled. "You better start. Getting used to that, I have a feeling this is not over yet." Bran's ship flew fast over the thin clouds of Moon 6. The engines made a soft hum, steady and smooth. Inside the small cabin, Joran sat beside Leary, both breathing hard after the narrow escape. The Black Hunter ship was gone from view, but none of them felt safe yet. Bran, the pilot, kept his eyes on the screen in front of him. He was a short man with strong hands and a sharp voice. His ship was old but well kept. Wires and pipes ran across the ceiling, and small lights blinked. "On every wall. Where are we going?" Joran asked. Bran did not look back. "There is an old station not far from here. It is off the main grid. Quiet place for repairs and fuel. We will hide there until I know no one is chasing us." Leary nodded in agreement. Smart choice. "They may not. Follow into unmarked zones." Bran raised an eyebrow. "You are the one they are after." "Right." Leary looked at Joran, then at Bran. "Yes, I am the reason they came." Bran sighed. "Then you owe me answers when we land. I do not fly through fire for free." Joran placed a hand on Leary's shoulder. "You can trust him. He keeps his word." Leary gave a small nod but said nothing more. Her mind was full of thoughts. She had almost died on that moon. Joran had saved her more than once now. He had risked everything without asking for anything in return. She looked down at the glowing stone she had given him. It now hung around Joran's neck on a short wire. It was a small thing, but it held power. Only a true royal could gift it, and now it belonged to him. 2 hours later, Bran's ship entered the dark side of an asteroid belt, hidden among the rocks. Was a floating station, half-broken and quiet. Its lights flickered, and pieces of metal drifted slowly nearby. But it had power, and Airbrand docked the ship and opened the side door. "Welcome to Station 19. Not pretty, but safe enough." They stepped inside. The air was cold and heavy, but the systems worked. Joran looked around. Old posters and cracked screens lined the walls. This place had not seen people in a long time. Leary walked with care, her eyes sharp. Even here she stayed alert. Her training as air had taught her never to relax during danger. She had learned this lesson many times. During her younger years, inside one of the rooms, Bran set up a small table and dropped a map on it. He looked at Leary. "Time for truth. Who are you, and why are we running from shadow ships?" Leary stood still for a moment. Then she stepped forward and spoke. "My name is Leary of House Saran. My family ruled the Sarari systems for many years. I was next in line to lead our world, but a war began. A rival house took power in secret. I escaped before they could use me as a tool for their plans." Bran listened with wide eyes. "You are a royal." "A real one," Leary nodded. "I did not ask to be saved, but Joran did it anyway. Now you help me too. I will not forget this." Bran leaned back and crossed his arms. "Well, now things are clear. You have value. Too much value, which means we are in more danger than I thought." Joran stepped forward. We need a plan, a real one. We cannot keep running from moon to moon. They will always find us. Leary looked at the map on the table. Her finger pointed to a small dot near the outer ring. This place. My people have a safe post there. Loyal ones. If we can reach it, I can call for help. They will take me home in secret. Bran frowned. That is far too far for a ship like mine. We need more fuel and a second path. If we follow a straight line, they will catch us. Joran leaned over the map and pointed to another path. What about this route through the Nebar rings? Not many follow that way. Too dangerous. Bran shook his head. That area is filled with broken signals and old mines. One mistake, and we float forever. Leary looked at both men and spoke clearly. I choose that way. It gives us a chance. Bran stood in silence, then gave a slow nod. Then, we prepare. I need 3 hours to fix the lower engine and scan the route. Joran helped Bran with the repairs, while Leary watched the skies from the station window. She thought about her home, her parents, her people. She had been trained to lead, but not like this. Still, something inside her had changed. Joran's courage had opened her eyes. Later, she found Joran in the control room. You could have left me, she said. I did not want to, he replied. You could have said no to this plan. But I didn't. She smiled softly. You are not like others. Joran looked at her with steady eyes. You are not like others either. They said nothing more. The moment passed quietly, filled with silent respect. Bran called from the engine room. Ship is ready. We leave now or never. Leary and Joran joined him on board. The engines roared to life, and the ship pulled away from Station 19. Behind them, the stars stretched across the black sky in the distance. The black ship waited again. They found us fast, Bran said. Joran grabbed the side rail. Then let's see if they can keep up. Bran smiled and pushed the ship forward. It shot into the stars, spinning through rocks and narrow paths. Leary held tight as the walls shook. The chase had begun again, but this time they had a destination, and this time she was not running alone. The ship moved fast through the Nebar rings. Dust and glowing stones floated around them like a silent storm. The old station had disappeared far behind, and ahead only the deep, dark space remained. Inside the ship, Joran sat near the window. Watching the strange lights dance outside, Leary sat across from him. Her hands rested on her knees, but her thoughts were far away. She looked calm, but Joran had seen that look before. She was hiding something again. He had noticed it in her eyes ever since they left the station. Bran's voice came through the speaker. We are clear for now. No signs of any ships behind us. Joran turned toward Leary. They are not chasing us today, but they will come again. That is the way of people like them. They don't give up easily. Leary nodded slowly. They will follow until they find me, or until I stop them. Joran leaned forward. There is something you are not saying. Something more than just being a princess. Leary looked up. Her blue eyes met his. You are right. There is more to my story, and you deserve to know the truth. She stood and walked to a small storage room. From behind a locked case, she pulled out a silver box. It opened with a soft click. Inside was a piece of crystal, shaped like a wing. It glowed softly in her hands. This is the heart crest of Saran, she said. It is given only to the one chosen to rule. Joran stared at it. The object looked simple, but it held great meaning. I thought you were the next in line, he said. I am, she replied. But I am not just the next. I am the last. Joran stood up, confused. What do you mean? Leary's voice grew softer. Family is gone. My mother. My father. My brother. They were all taken when the enemy attacked. Only I escaped. The Serari Empire believes I am dead. Joran stepped closer. So if you return, they will rise for you. Yes, Leary said. But that is what the enemy fears. If I return with support, they will lose control. That is why they hunt me across the stars. Joran was quiet. The truth was heavier than he had expected. He now understood the risk he had taken. Helping her was not just saving a stranger. It was stepping into a hidden war. Why didn't you tell me this before? He asked. Leary looked away, because I did not want you to carry this weight. I thought maybe you would leave if you knew. Joran shook his head. I don't leave people behind. You should know that by now. She looked at him with calm eyes. Yes, I know that now. Bran entered the room, wiping grease from his hands. Engines are holding, but we can't go much farther without refuel. You two better get some rest. We will reach the outer field in a few hours. Leary placed the heart crest back in its box. We will be ready. Bran left them alone again. Joran sat back down, still thinking. Leary sat beside him, this time closer than before. You really plan to lead your people? He asked. If they still want me, she said. They will, he replied. You speak like a leader. You fight like one too. Leary smiled faintly. I was. Trained from a young age, but I never felt ready until now. Maybe it is because of everything we have been through. Joran leaned back. You are not alone anymore. That makes a difference. The hours passed in silence. The ship moved steady through the last part of the Nabar path. The stars ahead were clearer now. Leary watched the screen as they neared the edge of Serari space. It had been so long since she had seen her home. Suddenly a red light blinked on the control panel. Bran rushed to the front and checked the radar ship behind us. Fast and closing in, Leary stood at once. Is it them? Bran nodded. No mark but speed matches the hunter ship from before. Joran grabbed his pack and strapped on his tools. Then, we finish this now? We are too close to stop. Leary looked at the glowing dot on the screen. Let them come. I am not running anymore. Bran locked the controls and turned the ship sharply. The engine roared as they changed direction. Instead of fleeing, they now faced the hunter ship head-on. Are you sure about this? Bran asked. Yes, Leary said. It ends here. The black ship appeared from the stars. Its shape was sharp like a blade, and its wings moved with dark light. It stopped in front of them, blocking the way forward. A voice came through the comm, give us the girl, and live refuse and be destroyed. Leary stepped forward and pressed the reply button. I am Leary of House Saran. I do not surrender, and I am not alone. She ended the call. Bran smiled. Nice speech, princess. Joran moved to the side panel and activated the defense screen. They won't expect us to fight back. Let's use that. The hunter ship fired first. A beam of red light hit their shield. The ship shook, but the shield held. Bran moved quickly, flying around the blasts. Joran climbed into the lower gun bay and aimed at the hunter's engine. Leary watched the screen and gave directions. Wait for the turn. Now fire. Joran pressed the trigger. A bright blue shot burst from the ship and hit the enemy's wing. Sparks flew. The hunter ship twisted and lost speed. Bran flew in fast and close. One more hit should do it. Joran aimed again. This time he fired at the control core. The shot landed. The hunter ship spun in place and then drifted slowly away, powerless. Silence filled the cabin. Leary sat down with a deep breath. It is over. For now. Bran slowed the ship and turned toward Sarari space. Joran returned from the gun bay and sat beside Leary. That was close. Leary looked at him. Thank you for standing with me. Joran smiled. Always. Ahead, the stars began to shift. The edge of her home was near. Leary was no longer just a runaway. She was ready to return. The ship glided closer to Saran's home world. Outside the window, the planet looked vast and beautiful, with swirling blue oceans and green lands. Leary's eyes stayed fixed on the sight. She felt a mixture of hope and fear inside her chest. After all the running and hiding, she was coming back to where her life had begun. Joran stood beside her, watching quietly. He saw the change in her. The princess, who once seemed lost and uncertain, now looked strong and ready. The weight of her secret had made her grow faster than anyone could imagine. Bran worked at the controls but kept glancing over his shoulder. The tension in the cabin was clear. They all knew the danger was not over. The rival houses that chased Leary would not give up easily. Saran authorities may be watching. Bran said, "We should be careful how we land." Leary nodded. "We need to reach the loyal ones first. The hidden allies who trust me." Joran looked curious. "How do you know they will help?" Leary smiled faintly. "Because they believe in peace and justice, not in the war that tears our home apart." The ship entered the atmosphere slowly. The clouds swirled like soft blankets. Below them lay a vast city with shining towers and crowded streets. The capital of House Saran still held beauty, despite the war that had scarred the world. As they landed on a quiet platform far from the city center, Leary took a deep breath. "This is it," she said. "The beginning of the fight to take back what was lost." They stepped out into the fresh air. The sky was bright and filled with sounds of distant ships and voices. Leary's heart beat fast. Every step she took brought memories back. Lessons from her mother, her father's strong voice, her brother's laughter. Suddenly, a group of armed guards approached. They wore silver uniforms with a symbol of a soaring wing. Their leader stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Princess Leary," he said, "we have waited for your return. We bring word from the loyal houses." Leary smiled, feeling a flicker of hope. "Thank you, Captain Aaron. We have much to do." Joran watched the exchange closely. He saw the respect in the captain's eyes, but also a hint of worry. The war had left deep marks on everyone. As they moved through the city, Aaron explained the situation. The rival houses control much of the government and military. They watch for any sign of rebellion. But the loyalists work in secret. We have safe places and allies ready to support you. Leary nodded. Then we must unite them before it is too late. That night they met in a hidden chamber beneath the city. The room was filled with faces from different houses. Some were young, some old, but all carried the same serious expression. Leary stepped forward and showed the heart crest. This is the symbol of House Saran. The mark of the true heir. I have returned to restore peace and end the war that divides us. Murmurs spread through the room. Some voices whispered agreement, others showed doubt. One elder woman stood and spoke. "Princess Leary, the enemy is strong, but your courage gives us hope. We will stand with you." Joran sat beside Leary, feeling proud. She was not just a princess now, but a leader who could inspire days passed with meetings and plans. Leary trained with her new allies, learning how to lead armies and negotiate peace. Joran helped where he could, using his skills from his old life. Bran remained the cautious pilot, always ready to fly if danger came. Then one morning, a message arrived. It was from House Varen, the rival house that had hunted Leary. They demanded she surrender within 24 hours or face destruction. Leary's face hardened. "They want to break us before we start." Joran clenched his fists. "Then we show them they made a mistake. The loyal houses prepared for battle but hoped to avoid bloodshed." Leary sent a message to the enemy. "I will meet you in peace if you truly want to end this war." The reply was cold and short. No peace with traitors. The day of the meeting arrived. Leary and her allies traveled to a neutral planet. The place was empty and silent. The enemy awaited them with guards and weapons ready. Leary walked forward, holding the heart crest. Her voice was steady. "I offer a chance to end this war, before more lives are lost." The enemy leader laughed. "Your words are weak, like your claim to the throne." Leary's eyes burned with fire. "Then you leave me no choice." She stepped back and signaled to her guards. They surrounded the enemy with calm strength. The meeting ended with no shots fired but no peace made. Either Joran looked at Leary with respect. "You carry the weight of your people and your future well." Leary smiled softly. "I could not do this alone. You gave me strength when I needed it most." Together, they returned to Saran, ready to face what would come next. The war was far from over, but a new hope had been born. The early light of Saran's twin suns warmed the city as Leary stood on the balcony of the old palace. Below her, the streets were alive with people, hopeful, curious, and watching. The news of her return had spread like wildfire. For many, she was a symbol of change and new beginnings. Joran stood behind her quietly. He had watched her grow from a frightened refugee into a strong leader ready to fight for her people. He understood the burden she carried and the courage it took to bear it. Bran arrived with urgent news. "Enemy forces are gathering near the border. They prepare for an attack at dawn." Leary nodded with calm determination. "Then we must be ready to meet them." Inside the palace, the loyal houses had gathered. Soldiers trained, weapons were prepared, and strategies were discussed. Leary moved among her people, offering words of encouragement and listening to their worries. Her voice was steady and strong when she addressed them. "This war is not just about power. It is about our future. We fight for peace, for our families, and for the chance to live free." Joran stood beside her as she spoke. The soldiers looked to her with respect and renewed hope as the suns began to set. The enemy's army appeared on the horizon. Dark ships and armored vehicles rolled forward. Their flags flew high, but their faces showed tension. Leary prepared her forces for battle, but she still hoped for a way to end the fight without bloodshed. The first shots were fired as the enemy advanced. The battle was fierce. Blasts of energy lit the sky, and the ground shook with every explosion. Leary led from the front, her presence inspiring those around her. Joran fought alongside the soldiers, using his skills to repair broken equipment and help the wounded. Bran flew his ship overhead, providing cover and quick escapes when needed. Hours passed with no clear winner. Both sides suffered losses, but neither gave up. The war had lasted too long to end easily. Now, suddenly, a signal came through the comm system. It was from a group that had not been seen before, a faction of the rival houses who wanted peace. Their leader spoke clearly. Princess Leary, we offer a ceasefire and a chance to talk. The war has caused enough pain. Let us find a new path together. Leary looked at Joran and then at her people. This was the moment she had hoped for. To end the cycle of fighting and begin healing, she stepped forward and replied, "We accept your offer. Let us meet and build a future where all can live in peace." The battle stopped. Slowly, the soldiers lowered their weapons. The suns rose higher, shining over a quiet battlefield. In the days that followed, meetings were held and plans made. The rival houses agreed to share power and work together. The people of Saran began to rebuild their homes and lives. Leary stood once more on the palace balcony, looking at the city below. The scars of war were still visible, but so was the promise of peace. She knew the road ahead would be hard, but she was ready to lead her people into a new era. Joran joined her, smiling softly. "You have done something incredible." Leary smiled back. "I did not do it alone. Together we changed our fate." Bran appeared beside them. "And the stars will watch as Saran shines again." The twin suns set slowly, casting warm light over the world. A new day had begun,